Today we're talking about relationships and the 4 pillars of qualities and values you should base your relationships on. And I'm also going to talk about any significant relationship you are to have. You will dream about them first. You will know a lot ahead of time if you pay attention to your dreams and you journal your dreams, because every significant relationship in our life, whether it's romantic or a business partner or some kind of project person that you're going to be involved with, you will dream about them ahead of time. So I want to discuss today about relationships. And this could be, I'm going to speak about kind of partner, soulmate type relationships, but these pillars of qualities also apply to a business partner, a romantic partner, someone significant in your life. So the first ones of the 4 that I want to talk about are respect and admiration. These are 2 things that are very important in any relationship that's going to be long-term and intimate. And intimate can be a business relationship when, you know, your financial life is on the line and decisions you're making affect your life. Business partnerships are intimate. So the first things that you need to make sure that you have is that you have respect and admiration for this person that is coming into your life. And the respect and admiration must be at a core level. So you have to eliminate all the fluff around the person or all the frayed edges around the person, because no one is perfect. And you have to get down to core issues that are absolutely necessary and absolutely unshakable. You're never going to veer away from these particular qualities. And the admiration and respect must come from the core. Of course, we can admire like someone who's an artist and we can admire their paintings, or someone who's doing really great in a project or has created a successful business. We can admire many of the things that someone has produced. We can admire how they look. But these are what I would call edges. There has to be core admiration and core respect. And this comes from when the rubber meets the road and you must be able to depend on the person that is your partner. You have to have a fundamental core respect for that person. You know what their values are, you know what their belief systems are, you know how they operate under stress, you know how they operate in private and in public, and every kind of facet of this person that you've seen brings respect and admiration. Now, it's not that they're perfect, because people judge other people based on how someone might satisfy my needs, and that's not the right. It's not the right way to judge the outer edges, but it is the right way to judge your core. So in your core, no matter what they're doing, even if they're acting up and doing things that are maybe not something you might go along with, their core principles, their core behavior, and their core display of fundamental beliefs, you will always admire and respect. Nothing can shake that. And now that's a tough one. I've been single now, divorced 20 years, and I've been married before, and I based my marriages on perceptions that I had at the time. And when you're in your 20s, you don't know much about relationships. Even when you're in your 30s, you don't know much about relationships, even in your 40s. I mean, I guess I don't know. You could probably even be in your 60s or 70s and still don't know enough about relationships. But there is a level of maturity that comes if you are aggressively working on yourself. You can be totally ignorant of core values and beliefs and principles all the way your entire life till you die because you never worked on yourself. So how you know what you want in someone else is because you have worked on yourself hard, really hard, faced the really dark stuff, because we cannot grow without going through the dark. And we cannot grow without living in the unknown. I've done a video on living in the unknown. The only way consciousness can grow and expand into higher realms of light and knowledge is by facing the unknown every day and embracing it and facing our fears and dealing with it and getting as honest as we can about ourselves and what our core values are. Because we cannot see these core values in others if we don't have them ourselves. So, with the idea of admiration and respect, you can't find that in someone else unless you have your own self-admiration and self-respect. If you don't have respect for yourself and admire who you are, you will not be able to see this at a core level in someone else. You may admire their flair, their dress, their painting if they're artists, or some outer fringe stuff, but you won't see the core in them because you don't have the core in you. So in all relationships, you have to have the core principles in you in order to see them in someone else. So we're talking about trust, and we're talking next is trust and loyalty. So we have now admiration and respect, and after we work with those principles with someone, because these other two I just mentioned come later or in a process, let's say, after we have been admiring this person and who they are and what they stand for and how they operate in the world and their belief systems, and there's fundamental admiration. I'm using this word instead of love because love is a very confusing word. People really don't get that. But you can use the word admiration, and that can be applied to male or female, business partner, or your romantic partner. So let's use admiration, because once the lusty, magnetic, romantic stuff wears off, you have to admire that person every single day. You have to respect that person every single day. When it gets tough outside, when the world is crashing in on the two of you, and decisions have to be made, you have to be able to respect this other person's view of reality, and that what they have to say in critical decisions has value and merit. That is a respect for their opinion. And you do that because you admire them. You know who they are, and you admire them. When everything gets down to stripping down all the outer and you're looking at the fundamental, there is a rock solid admiration and respect. So this is why when there's a disagreement, you're not going to override their opinion or not hear their opinion or try to argue your opinion, because you respect their opinion. And then because there's a respect and admiration, now going both ways, now there can be a way to bring two polar opposites together, because two sides of something is usually a good thing, because the two sides, it's like the halves when they come together make a better arrangement as a whole. So I have this, you have that, let's put it together, now we have a whole. So that's how that works with admiration and respect. So through this process, you now develop trust and loyalty. And these are the other two fundamental pillars in any relationship. Now, trust is going to, I had Spirit tell me, I've been having a lot of dreams about relationships. This is why I'm doing the video today, because it's off and on I've had premonition dreams. I'll get into dreams in a minute because I am going to cover dreams. But I've had premonition dreams. But what I want to say now is in December I had some real specific interactions with people that are new coming into my life. They're going to be coming in this year. And then I'm having even more of that now in January. I'm meeting these people on the inner realms. And I'm working with them and I'm getting to see who they are. And I haven't met these people yet. So here's what I want to say about the trust and loyalty. Spirit told me in an out-of-body experience a few months back when I was in an out-of-body experience, not necessarily with these new people, but just in an out-of-body experience. Spirit was coming and talking to me about a number of things, and relationships came up. And I was kind of taken off guard because my guide that was with me at the time said, the person that you're looking for, or that is coming, or that you know is there, will never let you down. And that just sort of stunned me, because I began to think about that statement, will never let me down. And then I began to think about how pretty much my whole life people have sort of let me down. And I'm sure you can relate to that. I mean, we say, well, nobody's perfect, they're going to let you down. I've pretty much been let down by people my whole life. And so for Spirit to tell me that, just recently, I began to think, okay, I must have changed in these last 20 years of being single. I must have changed enough in my own self-respect, my own knowing of self, my own principles, that whoever I would magnetize into my life now would be a person that wouldn't let me down, because the fundamental principles of who they are totally in alignment with who I am. That doesn't mean we don't make mistakes. It means that the fundamental person that they are will never let you down. And so that was a great revelation for me, and I wanted to pass this on for you. And I don't know how you're going to know that without having done a lot of interpersonal work. Because you have to be able to know what is just the world's stressors in somebody and what is their fundamental behavior. And so the never let me down situation, I'm bringing that up because it relates to trust and loyalty. And in those two qualities or principles, I've always been let down in, that I could never really trust them because they were either always keeping secrets, they were always manipulating, they always had a hidden agenda. I couldn't trust they were going to keep their word. I couldn't trust they were going to follow through. These kind of ideas. And the loyalty part, you know, it's not just whether or not, if it's romantic, someone's going to betray you in something, but it is in a way about betrayal. I mean, loyalty happens because you have a fundamental respect and admiration for that person. You can't be loyal to someone you don't admire and respect. You can't be loyal to someone you don't trust. So loyalty comes in there, but it's kind of like the fourth pillar here after there's been a good, solid sense of trust. And trust, of course, is that it doesn't mean that you have to tell this person everything you've ever done your whole life, especially if you're my age. I don't have to go back and say, here's all the things I did when I was stupid in my 20s, here's all the stupid things I did in my 30s, here's all the stupid things I did in my 40s. I mean, we don't have to bare our soul. You can if you want. I'm just saying that's not necessarily what delivers trust and loyalty, but what delivers trust and loyalty is the day-to-day fundamental actions. And so you won't have that trust and loyalty until you've worked with them or lived with them or partnered with them for a while, and you can begin to see that your admiration is never shaken, your respect for them has never shaken, and now you're beginning to trust them, and over time you will be loyal to them. And even if you were to part ways, which I'm going to speak about that coming up, because not all relationships are forever. People come into our lives for certain reasons, for certain lessons. But even after they have left, you can say you respect them, you admire them for who they are, and you remain a loyal friend to them. In other words, if you were in a marriage situation and you got divorced, if you're out there bad-mouthing your ex, well, there's no loyalty, there was no trust, there was no admiration, and there was no respect. Long-term, core, fundamental. Because core fundamental principles never change. So even if you had a business partner and you sold the company and split and went your ways, or a relationship went their ways, you always have these core principles about them. And that is letting you know that the decision you made was based on just a change of seasons and not necessarily a core flaw in your value system. So I've learned this with my past marriages. I had certain value systems that I still have some of these value systems, but the value systems were always negating my needs for the need of the other. And so I had to learn, I was learning this whole thing with my relationship. So I've come to respect myself more, I've come to admire myself more, and I've come to trust myself more, because if you can't trust yourself, it's going to be hard to trust others. If you aren't loyal to yourself, it's going to be hard to be loyal to others. And loyal to yourself means this, at a core fundamental level. You will never betray your core fundamental values. If you betray those, then you are not being loyal to your spirit, to the essence of who you are. And I would betray myself a lot of times and not trust myself a lot of times. So we have to have these inside of us. We have to have respect, we have to have admiration, we have to have trust, and we have to have loyalty within ourselves, for ourselves, so we can see that in others. Now I'm moving to dreams. Every significant, real significant relationship in my life, I've had premonition, astral travel dreams. Lucid dreams, astral travel dreams, or just dreams. Even if you weren't fully lucid, you could just say dreams. Because these people are significant in your life for one reason or another. I've had, in my last significant relationships, I dreamed about their family home. I met with their deceased father in the astral worlds. I met with them personally and discussed things. And I knew who they were when they showed up in my life. I knew exactly who they were, and I knew what I was supposed to be doing with them. And I had that another situation like that. I've talked about this in my videos on the playlist of our spiritual gifts and talents. I talk about premonition dreams, so you can go look at that playlist. But I had a business partner that I helped when I lived in Aspen. a young man about 12 years younger than me, I dreamed about him. I dreamed meeting him. I dreamed telling him I would help him. I knew what he looked like. So when he showed up in Aspen, I knew what my role was there. And so even in my last marriage, I knew what my role was in that marriage. I had met him several times. I had already, after 2 dates, we had a coffee date and a ski date because I was living in Boulder. I told him about his family home. I told him what it looked like. I told him I'd met his father. I told him all about that. Of course, he was a little bit stunned. But because I knew these things, he took serious the situation that was happening here. And I knew that this was not a relationship where all the boxes I needed were checked. There was some fundamental flaws in the relationship, but I thought I had enough spiritual power within me to overlook the holes in the relationship. And so I went forward with it because Spirit had showed me that this relationship was one of healing for him, for the damage that had happened with him and his father and his life, and the needing for a spiritual guidepost to sort of help. And I also learned about how far I could give and give and give and give, and finally wind up realizing that I was done with it, that there was no more I could do, and I needed now to have a space of my own to back away from the constant caregiver, counselor person, and never receiving any of that back, never receiving any care or consideration or kindness. Anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on that, but I'm just trying to say relationships can come into your life for a time span, 7 years, 3 years, 20 years. And so not every relationship is meant to be forever. We grow, we change, we evolve. And if the other person is not growing and changing and evolving with you, there comes a point where you just naturally move apart. So in dreams, you will be getting visitations by this person that you might be doing a business or personal relationship with. You'll start interacting with them in the dream worlds. If it's a business partnership, or let's say a project or some kind of charity work or something that, like there's this person, he's a visionary, and he's been working on this idea that he wants to do a project, he wants to get out there into the world, and it's this project that he's working on is going to be very significant for humanity and for the future. It's going to be long-lasting and it'll last many generations, this project he's working on. And now he's looking for people, like-minded people, that can help him with this project. So you would be, if you were to be part of this project, you would be interacting with him and interacting with maybe the people he has already started gathering for this project. So you could be having dreams where you're meeting new people and you're discussing some ideas that are related to this project, or maybe you're meeting the main person who's sort of spearheading the project, and you're discussing the project. If it's a relationship, you could be working out the sort of introductory sort of stage. In other words, I've had in relationships, I've had situations where I wound up talking to them in their house, and I was standing in their kitchen. And this is one relationship I'm telling you about, and I was standing in their kitchen, and he walked over to the kitchen. I was at the kitchen sink. There was like an island, and he was on the other side of the island. He walked around the other side of the island, and he stood in front of me, and my back was to the sink. And he stood there and he said, we have all these reasons that we're compatible and can work together and can be together. And he was giving me reasons and I was listening. So you may have something like that, or you may have something where you're trying to connect in a relationship, but there's like some inequity in the relationship. They may be more financially able than you. They may be more out in the world than you. They may be more outgoing and you're more introverted. And so you work on that in the dream plane. I know that, you know, I'm on these videos, but I'm basically introverted. I don't like big parties. I don't like big scenes. I just would rather be quiet at home in the gardens, you know, taking evening walks, meditating. I don't watch TV except occasionally, but not very often. So then there's these people who are very extroverted and they're going out every night and they're always having parties and they're very fundamentally outgoing and they're restless maybe. And if there's to be a match there, you're working some of that out. How much is your introversion going to help him sort of settle down, or her settle down and maybe spend more quiet home time? And how much are you going to allow yourself to go out? So there's that a little bit. So these are the things I wanted to talk to you about relationships. Keep your journal, as I've always said, because if there's business opportunities coming, partnerships, relationships coming, you will dream about them ahead of time. Write it down. And remember these 4 fundamental principles that you must have within yourself so that you can have them, attract them, magnetize them to yourself. And that, of course, is you must admire them, you must respect them, you must trust them, and you must be loyal. Which again is you admire yourself, you respect yourself, you trust yourself to make correct decisions, and you are loyal to your core principles. And so that's my video for today, friends, and I'll see you in the next one.